Ladies and gentlemen, foreign aid is racist. Not the very idea of it, but the way that it works in practice. Giving money to poorer countries can have incredibly positive results, but countries are treated differently, depending on where they are and who is being helped. Let's take a look at one prominent example. In October of 2018, Poland passed an important milestone. The goalposts are obviously somewhat arbitrary and the criteria depends on the organization, but according to the FTSE, a London-based financial news service, Poland officially became a developed country. It is no longer an emerging economy. Poland has made extraordinary progress. It only freed itself from centuries of oppression by Germans, Austrians, and Russians in 1918. Then the catastrophe of World War II was followed by 44 years of communist mismanagement. Back in 1989, Poland was a wreck, environmentally and economically. Making it to the ranks of developed countries in just 29 short years is amazing. Now, I don't want to sell this accomplishment short at all. What the Polish people have accomplished here is amazing, and it's a model for developing countries all over the world. What I do have a problem with, however, is the way that certain people are using this accomplishment to push certain ideas. Recently, an alt-right personality, who I'm not going to dignify by naming, used a trip to Poland to come out as a white supremacist. If you don't know certain important facts about Poland's great success, it can be easy to fall into this trap. The standard white supremacist story about Poland's rise goes something like this. Poland is the highest flyer, but most of the formerly communist countries of Eastern Europe have made similar progress. Millions of people in these countries were slaughtered during World War II, and many of the most important cities were destroyed. For 4 decades after that, the countries of the Eastern Bloc weren't just mismanaged, their economies were actively subjugated to the economic benefit of the Soviet Union. They were arguably just as oppressed as any colonized country in Africa or Asia, and they became independent much more recently. Yet just 3 decades later, they're mostly democratic and in much better shape economically than most of the African, Asian, and Latin American countries that are constantly whining about the legacy of imperialism. Is there something different about these Eastern European countries? I'm just asking questions here. Is there something about these countries that's superior? Are white people just culturally stronger and better at economic development? No. Let me shut that argument down right here. White people just get better foreign aid, like worlds better. Have you ever heard of the European Union's structural funds? The structural funds are the EU's secret weapon. Every year, tens of billions of euros flow from the EU's richer regions to its poorer regions. Anti-EU feeling has been on the rise in Europe over the past decade. Italy, Poland, Hungary, and others have elected folks who campaign on Euroscepticism. But when these folks make it into power, they all change their tune pretty damn quickly. Viktor Orban of Hungary, in particular, loves to outrage the bureaucrats of Brussels. But he'd never dream of taking Hungary out of the EU. His government would lose billions. Let's take Poland as an example. In 2017, Poland contributed a little over 3 billion euros to the EU. But then the European Union turned around and spent almost 12 billion euros on projects in Poland. That's around 9 billion euros of what I think it is very fair to call foreign aid. Now, from the context of the United States, where we can spend $1 billion putting up a single building in New York City, that may not seem like a lot of money, but trust me, in the world of foreign aid, that is a fire hose of cash. Many of you in the comments are fond of reminding me that the United States spends more on aid to Israel than to any other country. But Israel gets less than a third as much money from the United States as Poland gets from the EU every year. And put simply, EU structural funds are awesome. Like most developing countries, corruption is a problem in Eastern Europe. EU funds tend to be well administered. According to The Guardian, the 56 billion euros spent in Poland between 2007 and 2013 built a modern road system, schools, and tons of other key factors in Poland's economic miracle. After World War II, the U.S. embarked on the Marshall Plan to rebuild Western Europe. It's seen as a great success and one of the best things the United States has ever done. The Guardian, adjusting for inflation, reckons that between 2007 and 2020, Poland will have received the value of 2 personal Marshall Plans from the European Union. Considering Poland's nightmarish history with Europe, I think they deserve every penny of foreign aid that they got. But they're not the only ones that deserve help. Poland is a model of what foreign aid can help a country accomplish. I don't want white people to get worse aid, I want everybody to get the same treatment. Of course, that's not practical in the short term. It would be too expensive. So we've got to pick and choose a couple countries that look promising and help them up to Polish levels of success. My first nominee would be Tunisia. If we really care about democracy, we should want to prove that it's possible in the Arab world. That's exactly what the Tunisians have been doing since the Arab Spring in 2011. Many countries have recognized this, and Tunisia has received more aid than most African countries. But it's still limited to the kinds of aid that non-white people get. Poland gets $8 to $9 billion a year from the European Union. According to the International Aid Transparency Initiative, that's a similar figure to the entire amount that Tunisia has gotten since democratizing in 2011. And that's not from the EU, that's from everybody. United States, EU, and multilateral institutions. And that's over 9 years, not 1 year. Apparently the international community does not care about democracy in Tunisia. Oh, and by the way, I don't want to mislead with my focus on the formerly communist countries of Eastern Europe. The structural funds were beefed up when the European Economic Community was superseded by the EU's founding in 1993, but parts of the structural funds have existed since the 1950s. So this awesome foreign aid for white people has been a big part of the economic development story across Europe for well over half a century, from Ireland to Spain to the less completely successful but still damn impressive stories in Portugal and Greece. How about we let some non-white countries get a chance at this? How about Tunisia? Next time we'll be talking a bit more about that worthy country. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and click on the bell next to the subscribe button to get notifications whenever I upload a video.